words of advice. So, I mean, one of the key principles I think anyone should use, not only in co-living, but in life, is a lot of times roommates can be a source of irritation or something. In our house, it's not really the case because everything's so optimized. But when things like that come up, look inside first. Don't look at the other person. I think life gives us these unique opportunities to point out things that we may not necessarily see. And every time something comes up, we have a tendency to be like, it's this person's fault, or it's this, when it's really just life giving you an opportunity to see something within yourself. And I think that can be enhanced 100 times, like living with roommates, living in co-living environments. And I think it's a mistake to try and fix someone else, or like talk it out with someone else, or like say they're the problem or whine about it. I think it's like a huge opportunity to look inside at like, wait a minute, why does something like that even bother me? Like, where's that coming from? And like kind of evolution of, getting to your best version. That makes a big difference. Yeah. Try it, because people interpret things differently. And when you give them advice, it's kind of like, that's how you're supposed to do it. But if you share an experience, not only are they listening because they're not feeling attacked, judged, or like bossed around, but they like might interpret it a completely different way than you intended. But that's okay, because that's the information they needed from the story that you shared.
Christine here with another fun episode of the Coliving Code Show. Airs every Wednesday. And I wanted to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, ISL Furnishings, which they came on the show a little bit ago. So definitely check out their episode with two of the co-founders, Abe and Mac. They're a brand created through inner space living, and they're all about creating exciting spaces where design meets function. They've actually done quarters in Star City. So they've definitely done some big communities, some awesome stuff. You could see the pictures on their websites. Inner Space parlayed its success in commercial grade unit furniture and conceived an elevated offering. And they strongly believe in the co-living industry, which is cool. And they were founded with the mission to bring your brand to life. Their goal is to revolutionize the unit furniture experience. And driven by creativity, ISL Furnishings believe that interiors should inspire brilliance. Every venue has its own voice. They exist to clarify that voice, interpret your brand vision, and deliver to quality on time, every time. And like I said, yes, they've done Star City and quarters, but they've also done smaller communities. They can do 10 beds and up. And you can definitely check them out at islfurnishings.com. So let's go ahead and launch into today's episode. And part 3 of our series with the Entrepreneur House here in San Diego, California, where I also live. Today we are bringing on Trevor Jensen. He is the founder of Esports Generation and also Bullibone. So he's got a few companies going. Bullibone's actually a dog toy company, so you can look that up. And he is the owner of the Great Dane puppy we got at the beginning of COVID, Sierra. So we have a little clip of her. If you're watching on YouTube, she's amazing. We love having her in the house. So she is the 7th roommate in our house. So enjoy this week's episode with Trevor. Okay, so now the 3rd week of bringing on my amazing housemates here at the E-House, otherwise known as the Entrepreneur House in San Diego. Welcome to the show this week, Trevor.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I wish I was over by you with all the wine in the background. A little wine cellar action going.
Well, hey, you're at your office. Your office is beautiful. So you're not working at home anymore.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I learned about co-living, like it's nice to create separation sometimes with like some of the office activities to kind of have a sacred space if you don't have a dedicated spot in the house. So I kind of like, having a spot I can retreat to for, a little bit of the work that when I need to grind it out.
Definitely. And so let's start with your age, when you moved in and why you moved in.
So I just turned the big 4-0 back on September 11th. I moved in. Is a pretty crazy story, actually. Wasn't a breakup like a lot of the other housemates. It was, I had a dog that I loved and was a big part of my life. And she passed away, and it was like kind of a traumatic event. So one of my other buddies said, load up your backpack. We're going to go on a backpacking adventure. So we went to Mount Rainier and we just started backpacking. And I remember not wanting to go back home. to the place where the pup passed away. And there just happened to be an opening. Chandler was living there at the time, but he was moving out. So there happened to be an opening. And while I was on the mountain, I arranged everything to so I came home and moved straight into the entrepreneur house and never went back to the place where my pup passed away. So it was kind of like I needed a new scene and kind of needed a support network. That was the reason I moved in.
And you moved in 2 years ago?
Yeah, I think roughly 2 years ago. I've been here for a couple years.
And then speaking of puppies, talk about the one you got right when quarantine started here at the house.
Yeah, it was really cool. So having the community, having the house was really, really awesome for that dog thing, because the reason I didn't move in sooner was, dogs aren't allowed, and it was kind of a rule. But once I moved in and you guys all kind of saw how much dogs meant to me, we sat down in one of the masterminds, and if it wasn't a group 10 for everybody, then the dog wouldn't have come and joined us on this little co-living journey. But all the housemates were really supportive, and everybody voted to allow me to have a dog. And yeah, now we have Sierra, the 100-pound Great Dane, just running around making everybody happy.
Yes, and explain, I remember you gave us 6 months notice, right? You're like, hey, in March, I'm thinking about, travel will be slower for me. I could be around to train the dog, March. And then what did you say when COVID hit?
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's just the universe bro, you said you're going to get a dog. Do we have to shut down the entire planet for you to go get a dog? So in my little world, it was just an obvious sign from the universe that okay, it's time to get a dog. So pulled the trigger right away. And then we had a 7th member for our summer camp that was starting.
And then I know Christian on last week, he actually explained what a group 10 is. So anybody listening, you can listen to that episode. He went into detail what a group 10 is for all of us, because it's kind of a unique way to vote on things and make sure everybody's happy. But I would love to ask you about summer camp, explain summer camp, which started when COVID started for us, and your favorite parts.
Yeah, I remember in our Monday masterminds where we were talking about, we're all busy. We all travel. We all kind of, have pretty busy social lives. So a lot of times we're not home at the same time, or we're kind of strangers in the night, ships passing in the, in the darkness. And I remember we were saying we should have a house movie night. We should do a little more bonding, a little more one-on-one, or group activities. And all of a sudden COVID hit, and we just started watching movies together. We started a Cold Stone addiction that we're still trying to break. We just started miniature golfing, going on boats all the time, going on RV trips. It turned into this thing where exactly what we asked for just magically manifested. And we just started hanging out with the house, because you can't really hang out with anyone else. You can't go anywhere. So we were just what are all the most amazing things we want to do as a house? And we started mapping those out and doing them one at a time. And just it felt like summer camp the whole time.
Okay, next question. Trevor, I forgot to ask you, what is your company? Well, you have a couple, so tell everybody which company.
Yeah, and depending on people's personality types, they'll vibe with one or the other. And they're both pretty fun industries. So the first one, the one that's, I'm CEO of, it's just the best possible thing I could ever be doing, is I make dog toys. I run a company called Bullibone. We're in Walmart, Dollar General, Albertsons, Tractor Supply. We're closing in on 20,000 stores now, selling USA-made dog chew toys. So that's a pretty fun business. And the other company is Generation Esports, which is basically it's a league where you can compete, playing video games against other high schools, middle schools, colleges, and all sorts of tournaments.
Awesome. So you stay quite busy with both companies.
Stay busy for sure.
Yeah, and then what else was I going to ask you? You're the only San Diego native in the house too. You grew up in San Diego.
Yeah, I did. I didn't realize that. I'm the only San Diego native.
Yeah,
huh?
you are.
Right.
So Next topic, I would love for you to kind of go into detail about the quarterly retreats we host, and then the wine nights and the mastermind dinners.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, one of the things I really love about the house is all the stuff we got going on, all the opportunities to network, all the opportunities to meet cool people and kind of develop out our tribe, um, which is a lot easier pre-COVID. I mean, we even had the breathing every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. We'd have a pretty good squad of people coming over to do breathing club every Saturday. And well, I guess once a month we do a wine night. Once a month we do the mastermind dinners, which allow us to. The mastermind dinners are a very intimate dinner. I mean, I've had people fly in on private jets from New York to join our dinner. We usually get 2 invites per person, and the objective is see who the most influential person, the biggest person, someone you've always tried to connect with. Who is that person that you can invite to this dinner? Because most people, they want to know what is going on at this house. You guys, 6 entrepreneurs with a chef and cleaners and car washing, like that seems a little. People are very interested, and then you show them the articles. We've been in ink, we've been in magazines, we've been on TV shows, and it really allows us to bring in high caliber people that we wouldn't ordinarily have access to. So the dinners are awesome for that, and then the wine nights allow us to invite everybody. So you're limited to 2 invites for the dinner, but the wine night, you can kind of invite everybody. And then, people don't feel left out. They feel like they're part of it. And, the wine nights usually draw a lot of people. And the quarterly retreats are really something that I look forward to every quarter. It's a chance for all of us to go up, find a really cool place, turn our phones off, go over goals, go over, how can we help each other out? Where do you need help? What do you need? Who do you need a connection to? How are you tracking on your goals? It's accountability, friendship, bonding. It's just so many different things. But those quarterly retreats are just, they're fire. They're one of my favorite things.
Yeah, no, and that was my next question is what do you like best about co-living is that, and then I'm having a feeling it's also networking, right? Because all 6 of us, you like tap 5 more people's networks and their friend circle, so then you become friends with their friends, and it just like expands like overnight.
Yeah, and I mean, I have to go into I'm a massive person, 6'6", 255 pounds, and I come from a big family where it's like we're all massive people. And there's 5 kids in my family and 3 cousins who grew up next door who are basically brothers and sisters. And I lived in a 3-bedroom house, so I shared a room with 2 other brothers. I mean, we were stacked on top of each other growing up. So this I feel very out of place when I'm living by myself or with one roommate. Like I love living in this environment where there's 6 of us in a house, and we all have our own rooms, so it's not really crowded. But it's just nice to have like common areas where we congregate, and it feels. In my opinion, that's how humans are meant to exist in these like co-living type environments. I know some people need their space, but I am not one of those people. Like I want to be in the mix. I want to be playing pranks on people. I want to be bouncing ideas off people. I want to be having a good time with like a lot of roommates.
Yeah, you've got the only room downstairs. Just one room downstairs. You're right by the kitchen. You're right by the dining area, the front door. But yeah, you're up so early.
Downstairs wing of the house, no big deal.
Yeah, so it's like the loudest corner of the house, but you love it. You're like coming out of your room early, and so yeah, definitely probably the most social person in the house. Which is awesome. Cool. So then let's see here. If you ever moved out, what would be your best guess on the reason?
Well, first of all, that's blasphemy. But if for some reason that had to happen, I mean, it could be, we have such a good mix of people right now, so it's hard to imagine. But if people start shuffling in and out and the mix kind of gets thrown off, I could see that being an issue. Or, I think one of the things that is just a natural progression, if, there's a relationship that kind of evolves into something where you got to live together, I'm not sure I'll be able to convince someone to come live in my co-living house. So I mean, it's probably one of those things. I could also see myself just being here for a while. I mean, I know some people kind of it gets too intense, or they're like, I'm just going to live here for a year or two because that's all I can handle. I definitely don't have feelings like that. Like if I moved out and even into a relationship type of thing, I'd try to do it with like two or three other people and create like a little congregation where there's still like a community aspect to it. Um, so I kind of rambled there, but those would be probably the
Yeah,
reasons.
no, you didn't ramble at all. And hey, what we always say, we're going to have houses on the same street, separate houses.
Yeah. Yep.
So that would be cool. Let's see here. So, last question is, any words of advice to those who are thinking about co living with other people? Maybe they never have, or they already do.
Words of advice. So, I mean, one of the key principles I think anyone should use, not only in co living, but in life, is a lot of times roommates can be a source of irritation or something. In our house, it's not really the case because everything's so optimized. But when things like that come up, look inside first. Don't look at the other person. I think life gives us these unique opportunities to point out things that we may not necessarily see. And every time something comes up, we have a tendency to be like, it's this person's fault, or it's this, or it's this, when it's really just life giving you an opportunity to see something within yourself. And I think that can be enhanced 100 times, like living with roommates, living in co-living environments. And I think it's a mistake to try and fix someone else, or like talk it out with someone else, or like say they're the problem or whine about it. I think it's like a huge opportunity to look inside at like, wait a minute, why does something like that even bother me? Like, where's that coming from? And like kind of evolution of, getting to your best version.
And I love that we do the Gestalt way of things, where we're trying to do experience shares versus giving advice and telling them what to do.
That makes a big difference. Yeah. Try it, because people interpret things differently. And when you give them advice, it's kind of like, that's how you're supposed to do it. But if you share an experience, not only are they listening because they're not feeling attacked, judged, or like bossed around, but they like might interpret it a completely different way than you intended. But that's okay, because that's the information they needed from the story that you shared.
And we didn't touch, so one more last question, and then we'll be done. The Monday night masterminds, I'd love for you to explain those. They go from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. If you want to kind of tell the breakdown and what we get out of that.
Yeah, so the Monday night masterminds are definitely a way to keep the house on track. If there are grievances, you air them out in the Monday night mastermind. Everybody gets to kind of like speak their mind and, make sure that there's nothing festering. There's nothing that's going to be like, held inside and then blow up at some time later. It also gives us an opportunity to kind of acknowledge people, to talk about how is the chef doing, how are the systems doing, how is the house getting too messy, how are the cleaners doing. It just gives us definitely a big chunk of time to kind of optimize the house, and then it gives us a chance as a group to process issues for any of the roommates who might be dealing with something or need feedback or advice. Um, Celebrate wins. It's nice that we all carve out that 2 hours every week to be fully present, to make sure that we're there for the roommates, they're there for us, and we just kind of designate that way to maintain connection with the house and with kind of everybody being at that level 10 that I'm sure Christian explained in detail.
Definitely. And, everybody listening, I know, again, we're smaller co-living. There's only 6 of us, but there's a lot of co-living communities that are 300, 500, 1,500 people in a building. So definitely you guys can kind of round up, if there's some entrepreneurs in your building, maybe have them meet once a week together and kind of pair them together and facilitate that, maybe musicians, artists. So definitely, again, I know a lot of developers, a lot of, operators of large communities are probably like, oh, this is a smaller version, but definitely take away anything you're getting out of kind of how we run our home. And Amy.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because if it is a 300-person community, you can't really have. It's more difficult. I shouldn't say you can't have it. It's more difficult to have a deep connection. So it would be more efficient to have little pods of people kind of coming together. And I mean, if I was in a big community like that, first thing I'd do is establish my squad of 5 to 10 people that I meet with once a week.
Yeah, no, definitely, which is awesome. And that's community in a nutshell, right? It's just these kind of micro communities within the big community. So awesome. Well, any last thoughts, Trevor, or comments?
Let's see. Great Danes grow to be huge, and I love Great Danes, and Sierra is awesome. So just a little plug for my dog.
Oh, I'm going to get her on one of these episodes these next couple of weeks. I'll bring her over. She used to sit in my lap, and then now she can put her head here. So we'll bring her in. We'll bring her in. Awesome, Trevor. Well, thanks again for coming on this week.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for checking out this week's episode. And keep in mind, we are on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, and iTunes. And also, if you are a co-living community, you can reach out to us to be listed on the Kndrd platform. That's Kndrd.io. It's a great way to showcase pictures, videos, virtual tours of your community. Also, we have a link in the show notes for our 3 books on co-living. You can also find one of them on Amazon.com if you'd like the print version. And lastly, a very quick shout out to our partners over at ISL Furnishings. They bring light to your vision and already work with some of the larger companies like Star City and Quarters. See you guys next week.